Thank you so much for tuning in to Awakening with Katina Love. We are a conscious talk show to learn about self empowerment, the law of attraction, metaphysics, creating financial abundance, and natural health. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Awakening with Katina Love. Today we have a special returning guest, Tony Doyle, mindset coach. Today we're going to talk about the difference between the third, fourth, and fifth dimension. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Tony. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm great. Thanks for having me back.
Cool. So, really into this like cosmic, spiritual, universal, dimensional stuff.
Absolutely. Me too. And I
How did
love
you get into it? How did you get into it?
um yeah, that's that's a good question. That's a good question. I think as you kind of go, it gets into you. You know what I mean? Like
Right?
it's an awareness that just kind of comes, and momentum like kind of sweeps you along the path.
Yeah.
Um it's we've talked about in um previous podcasts
Mhm.
kind of how my path, the way things have gone, and and really, it's been like less than 6 years, since all of this began. Although I
Mhm.
grew up uh, with some spirituality, but less than 6 years, like it's been a complete momentum craziness for the last two and a half of it. So.
Wow.
Um,
Craziness as in exciting.
Absolutely, like the momentum, like it's nonstop, you know. Um, so not just on the physical level, but on the spiritual and mental, and all the different planes as we go along here. So, um,
Don't
you
you love
know,
it? Isn't it fun?
absolutely, absolutely,
Sweet. So let's start out with talking about the third dimension or 3D.
yeah, easy to talk about the 3D since that's where we live.
Right?
So to me, third dimension is defined by our five senses, because what we consider real has to match up with one of our five senses. Can we taste it,
Mm-hmm.
smell it, touch it?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
The earth plane.
exactly, exactly. So
The
we're the third dimension.
physical earth plane in the human body experience.
Correct, correct.
3D. Physical plane.
So it's about duality. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's about recognizing light, dark, love, hate, those types of things. It's about the physical senses, um, all of that type of stuff. It's our day to day life.
Yeah. Absolutely, isn't it? Okay, that was pretty easy, right? Everybody can pretty much relate to what 3D is, the third
I think
dimension.
so.
The,
I think most
lower,
people.
the lower planes, the more dense um, experience in the human body as human beings, the human side of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is the humanness of
Uh,
us.
yeah, cool. So, what about the fourth dimension?
So the fourth dimension, and on this earthly plane, what I've studied is we are bouncing between the third and fourth dimension most of the time. So the
Mm-hmm.
fourth dimension is more of a collapse of timelines. So it's when we realize that time is not necessarily reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's where we can add that time to the other three dimensions. So it's more of a broad definition of 3D. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it still has the dimensions of 3D, but it encompasses shifts of realms, and it enables you. Because once again, this is a consciousness, so it's all happening at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
um, when a strictly 3D person thinks very linear.
Yeah.
So, this happens and then this happens and then I'm going here.
Life
Um,
events.
exactly, life
What I'm
event.
doing today, tomorrow, next year.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when we can get to the 4D consciousness, then we realize everything is the here and now, and it only happens in this moment.
Mhm.
And truthfully, the future doesn't exist, and the past is just a memory of a
Mhm.
present event. So when we can collapse that timeline, that's the 4D, and that's the preparation we need to be able to get into the next density or dimension.
Wow. So the fourth dimension. So is that like between the physical and the spiritual realm? Is it kind of like in the middle place of
It
that?
That's the way I picture it, and it kind of is. It's like without being able to talk about parallel realities, like you can never get to the 5D. So it would, in that way, it would be like a middle ground consciousness.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's to prepare our minds for 5D, which is a lot different than 3D.
Right.
You
So
know.
for the 4D, the fourth dimension. So that's kind of like an in-between place.
hmm
When do we experience 4D?
Well, like I said, we experience 4D back and forth. It really depends on the individual, you
Mhm.
know. So it's when we can see ourselves as not the avatar. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? When we can actually step back and see ourselves as something other than the physical, because people who are strictly 3D live the day to day life. You know what I mean? They may
Boring.
have religion, but not necessarily spirituality. Kind of bounces back and forth. When you get to that 4D, you're able to actually separate yourself from the physical being. So you know that you are a spiritual person or a spiritual entity having a physical
Mhm.
experience.
Right. Would you say we go into 4D, some of us, when we're meditating?
Absolutely.
Okay. So kind of
Absolutely.
like maybe
In fact,
4D, 5D in the meditation phase, and maybe even in the dream state.
so yeah, 4D is described a lot as the dream state, and so most people who study this detailed think we go into it when we dream at night all the time.
Mhm.
Also, when we meditate, we are definitely in much more conducive to a 4D state, depending on how deep we can get into the theta and beta states.
Mhm.
Um, so definitely that, but they do. It is that dreamlike state to where you can, like I said, picture yourself. It's the out of body,
Mhm.
um, where you can picture the person that is, Katina,
Mhm.
the human person. That's an avatar. That's something that we talked about in a previous podcast about how kids are able to picture this a lot easier because they're so used to first person video games,
Yeah.
where they strap on a headset and they're controlling something out there. It's much similar concepts,
Pretty
and
interesting,
that's the
right?
4D. That's the in between. You know,
When you said that, I did think about the movie The Avatar. A
yeah,
lot of truth in that,
absolutely.
isn't it?
A lot of truth in that. Like
A
so,
lot.
yeah. So the different, like the Matrix, that movie,
Mhm.
the movie Avatar, exactly that.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Pretty
It
awesome.
definitely helps us picture that, you know what I mean? And
It
kids
does.
have grown up in that so much more so than us.
Right. Okay, well, let's go on to the fifth dimension.
So the fifth dimension is technically it's love.
Mhm.
So the fifth
Higher
dimension is love and light. So when people say love and light, that's what the fifth dimension is.
Mhm.
So it's pure source vibration.
Wow.
Um, on the power scale, it's described as enlightenment.
Mhm.
So it's we talked about the vibrational scale last podcast, I think. Um, So you're looking at 500 and above
Mm-hmm.
on a constant basis. So if you can keep your vibration at 500 above, that's the fifth density. They actually describe it as a density more so than a dimension, but either one is kind of, you can use back and forth. So 500 and above, 500 is love, and then above that, like I said, is enlightenment, but it's all in that, in that upper consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
of that upper realm that we're calling 5D, or the fifth dimension, fifth density.
Would you say that the fifth dimension is also like in the dream state? Like when do we also, I would say too, in meditation, because during meditation
Um,
we do raise
yeah,
our
most
consciousness.
people say the closest we get is in meditation, and that some people bounce to it, but most people that have actually studied this say that to keep your vibration at 550, at that high, there's been few humans able to do that for prolonged periods, because
Mm-hmm.
we do live in a 3D. And they point to, that's why yogis and people like that, they go out and they're, singular in a cave where they,
Right.
you know what I mean, where
Separate
literally they're just
themselves.
getting downloads. They're just pure vibration and energy, because we live in a 3D world here, so it's not easily accessible. It's also not something that our body our mind is is used to vibrating at that high of a frequency at all times.
Right, right. Because we did come from for the duality and the contrast,
Exactly,
which
exactly.
was the vibration. We came for that experience as the
hmm
spiritual being. Wow, quite interesting. Hmm.
Yeah. So, and I do some work with Hay House and Joe Dispenza, and like he and Greg Braden, they've got a lot of stuff on this. If your listeners want to look more into it, but that 5D, like I said, it's really about the higher vibration of the heart,
Mm,
where where 4D and especially 3D, we really create using the law of attraction and the power of the brain.
mm-hmm.
Okay, our mind power. So we talk about our subconscious, we talk about our conscious, um, in that vibration, and that's the duality, right? So
Right.
that's that. And when we add the that of the heart, and they've got a really great thing, like the Heart Math Institute can
Mm-hmm.
tell you all about the vibrations of those things, but that of the heart, that is a singular point, and that allows us to move up. That's that 4D, and then moving on into 5D, but we have to be able to manifest from the heart at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So our actual vibration is 10x when we do that. So um,
Wow.
it's yeah, and that's what I say. So if you could keep it at love,
Mm-hmm.
so if your average has to be love 500 or higher, that means to dip. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you let anything dip you down lower than that, like, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to make up the difference. You know what I mean? So it's really hard for us in the human form to vibrate and access 5D for any extended periods of time.
Makes perfect sense.
hmm
If you are trying to reach your vibration, it is very important. It's almost imperative to surround yourself with people that have higher vibrations as much as
Absolutely.
possible. Definitely. Um, your circle, you might want to change it if you're trying to reach a higher level of vibration and, grow spiritually. Because the higher you go, the faster you grow spiritually, right? And the better you feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's the thing. And like, we want to get away from, like, a 3D thought is linear always. You know what I mean? Not just in time, but you know what I mean, like structure wise. So in 3D, we think 4D, 5D, that's a better place. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
but it's actually not even like that.
Okay.
Um, so it's not it's growing, but it's like saying that a baby, the baby version of you is not as good as the teenage version of you. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
another version of you. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Oh, I
So
got it. Yeah.
so
Got
so the
it.
way I picture it is like if you if you ball your fist up, okay, that's your 3D self because it's physical. So you ball your fist up, that's your
Yeah.
physical 3D self.
Mhm.
If you can picture a foot around that, like a orb in all 360 degrees, that could be your 4D self.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's still you. All of that is
Yeah.
you. And then if you experience a bubble all the way around the outside of that, even bigger, that's your 5D. So it's not necessarily a higher level. You know what I mean? So we don't want to think about it like that necessarily because everyone's in a different part of that. You know what I mean? Like we're
Mhm.
all, in fact, we're in a, we constantly are bouncing back and forth based on vibration into different levels of that. And like I said, the 4D is getting away from all that. It's collapsing all those timelines and realizing all that's going on at the exact same time. You know what I mean? So we're
Right.
bouncing between those all the time, depending on the people we surround ourselves with, like you said, our
Right.
physical environment. You know what I mean? How well we've trained ourselves to either react or not react to
Right.
external things. You know,
Your
all of
thoughts.
those different
Your
things.
thoughts at
So
any given moment.
exactly, exactly.
Wow. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. So, but but literally, if you just think of 5D as love and light
Yeah.
and nothing else,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. That really gives you a taste of what it's like. You know what I mean? And like I said, when you can get there through meditation. I'm most people's first taste of those things is actually through religion and prayer.
Right. I was just thinking that prayer,
You know,
when you pray, you raise your vibration.
yeah, absolutely. And
As
and
long as
some
you're
people
not begging and, begging
some
to
people
God
can get all the way to
to bless it.
4D. You know what I mean, through prayer, because once again, it's about intention. It's about belief. You know what I mean.
Yes.
So you can raise your vibration very high, even in a 3D structure like religion.
Hmm.
You really can. But when you collapse the timelines and you get rid of the dogma, that lets you get even to a higher level of pure love without any boundaries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
cool.
most religions are based on love, right? So almost all
Hmm.
the leaders of each religion have very similar dogma based
Right.
around love, but there's always some structural conformities that have to do with the 3D about
Right.
how we do things. Hierarchies once again,
Right.
you know, very 3D concepts. So, but yeah, so a lot of people are bouncing all the way up to 4D, through religion to begin with. That's their first taste of it. So,
Right. Right. Because you got to start somewhere.
absolutely.
Definitely.
Until that's the thing, it's all about the consciousness and the awareness. So until you know it's possible and you have a taste for it, a feel for it, you know what I mean? You don't know what you're missing out on.
Right.
And that's one of the bad things about living in a 3D world and religion not being a big part of it for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Lots
Right.
of times they get like they're lost or they feel lost or whatever because
Right.
there's no way for them to get to that. Luckily
Right.
now meditation has become a lot more popular, so there is another method. I mean, their awareness in general and consciousness is becoming a lot more popular because of the shift of the whole planet, which is great.
Absolutely. And
All shifting
mindfulness
towards
too.
Exactly. We're all shifting towards 4D. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
overall vibration, we talked about that in the last podcast, the overall vibration of the planet is higher.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
You can
even
tell
though,
too.
I'm sorry?
You can tell.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and the funny thing is, you can definitely tell those folks who have not experienced a lot of 4D yet because they can't see it at all.
Right.
It feels a lot worse to some people.
Yeah, because they're only looking at what is, what's going on
Exactly.
right now, what's going on in the news, or what's going on at school or
Exactly. And
wherever
that's
out there at work, or
yep.
so much more to life,
Yes.
than what we see, and we are creators. We're always creating our reality, and the idea is to become deliberate creators, to be master manifestors, as we were talking about in the last session, the last segment.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. As our vibration rises, I mean that becomes so much easier and more natural to us.
Hmm.
And we talked about last time the law of attraction is basically a 3D law, and it conforms to how we do things here.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but there are other ways to manifest. As your vibration raises, you
Hmm.
actually those things come to you naturally anyway. You talking about shifting realms, and um, that's a whole nother podcast in its own self. But you can definitely manifest a lot more things in 4D, and being able to bounce up to the vibration of 5D, by
Really
thinking
cool.
of it in terms of realms, and parallel timelines.
Wow.
Um,
That's
so when
cool
you start
stuff.
talking, yeah, when you start thinking about act as if it's
Right.
already happening, and then you realize that the timeline is collapsed in 4D, it can be instant manifestation, because it really is already over there. It's just a matter of you getting your vibration to that.
That is so
So no
cool.
longer is the thing that you have to draw it to you. You literally just have to embody it.
So, what do you mean by embody it?
Um, embody it
Becoming.
is embody it is acting as if.
Uh huh.
So when people talk about it from a 3D perspective, it's fake it till you make it. But
Right.
when you realize that everything is going on at the same time, it's not fake it till you make it. It's literally become the vibration of that person that has it right this second. So whatever that manifestation is that you're trying to bring into you in the here and now, because there is only the here and now in 4D, right? We're
Yeah.
multiple timelines. So if you're a person who has who is a CEO of a major company making seven figures,
Mhm.
you you have but to embody that, to become it. As Dr. Dyer always told me, and remember, he's my first my introduction to
What a
all
cool
of these
guy to.
spiritual is to Dr. Dyer. So I got crash course. But as he always said, you don't attract what you want; you attract what
What
you
you
are.
are.
You
Absolutely.
are.
That's
So
so
he was
cool.
already. I mean, from the beginning, he's. I mean, obviously one of the highest vibration people on the
On the
planet.
planet.
You know, so he was 4D, 5D all the time. And he was. I mean, there's the secret right there. It's
Yeah.
so different. That's a very different shift from the traditional law of attraction way to look at it in 3D. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Of attracting, and it, setting the attention, then getting out of the way, and all of those things.
Right. Setting the intention of getting out of the way. Absolutely. Detaching
So
ourselves.
in 4D, you don't have to do that. You literally just embody the thing, and it becomes. You know, we're
That's
always
so
in the
cool.
process of becoming in the here and now.
So cool.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just taking some notes here. Civilized. I got a whole bunch of ideas of some more shows
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love this stuff.
that we
So
can do.
yeah,
Okay.
I hope your listeners are enjoying all this stuff also. So
Oh, definitely.
it's super fun stuff, and I love the fact that, like, one of my favorite manifestations of myself is literally just being able to do this 24 hours a day.
To do what you love.
Like,
Do
I'm
what
a
you love.
learning junkie, and it's
Right.
spirituality, and it's manifestation, and it's
Me
living your best
too.
life.
Big time.
It feels good, and it feels great to help other people when they have questions like that. So I love being a coach, and I love doing speaking stuff, and I've got a podcast getting ready to go on, so I'm going to be able to impact even more people, and
Love
so
it.
it's just great stuff.
Love it so much. I'm great. I'm glad you came on today. So, how can you be reached if someone wants to know more about you and possibly work with you?
Um, you can pretty much find out anything about me at TonyDoyleInspires.com. Um,
Perfect.
you can reach me there. I've got coaching things there. I've got inspirational things there. I've got my speaking links and all that stuff. So, say if you have a stage or an event coming up and you'd like me to come speak, um, pretty much everything's there. That will also be the jump off spot for the podcast, which we're in the process of building. I think April 1st or 2nd is going to be the launch date on that. So you will hear a
Yay!
lot more about that.
Awesome.
We are in the process of collecting up everything for that right now. So doing massive marketing things. I have to fly to London here not too long from now to do some
That's so
stuff.
cool. So
So
cool.
we'll be interviewing people at Hay House Live when I'm doing that project in Portland
Wow.
shortly, and we'll be interviewing some Mind Valley people when we're at Reunion in LA, and then we got
Love it.
Portugal, the A Fest, and all kind of stuff planned. So good stuff.
Fun, 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 fun,
Yeah,
fun.
4D stuff. All
you
about
get,
the 4D right now.
you get to inspire, you get to enlighten and coach, and you get paid to do what you love and do this stuff all the time, and life is just awesome for you.
I mean, it gets better all the time. That's the great thing. The funny thing is, at a certain point, like, it sounds weird, but you forget about the pay. Like,
Yeah, I know.
what,
I
what,
can relate.
once it's not a worry, you know what I mean? Like, once
Yes,
it's not a worry, it just comes in on its own,
comes
and
in
you
on
got
its
like
own.
multiple streams, different things. You know what I mean? It's all about value.
It is all
So,
about value.
so it's to me, it's all about helping people and providing the maximum value. And like the money is, everything is
The
energy.
byproduct. Yeah.
It's a byproduct, so it comes and goes. You know what I mean? So the
Money in,
thing
money
is,
out. Money in,
money in,
money
money
out.
out.
Money
That's
in, money
right.
out. It
It
just
comes and
flows.
goes. You know, um, it's all about abundance. So as long as you're living in abundance and you know that that's the reality, once again, you set that intention, you know it to be true, you live it.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Well, thanks again for being a guest, Tony. I really do appreciate you coming on again and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience.
No problem. Thanks for having me again. I love being on this podcast. We always get into some good topics here.
We do, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Awakening with Katina Love. Namaste.